Welcome to the Realized Gains podcast. This is episode 65. I'm your co-host, Jordan Lee, and I am a mortgage lender based here in Portland, Oregon, licensed in 9 states. And I invest mostly in single-family residences as well as the duplex.
Hey, I'm Alex Fan. I'm your guest co-host today. I'm also, well, not also, but I'm a real estate broker here in the Portland metro area, also investing in single-family and multifamily housing. And today we got to meet with Tim Herr. Jordan and I got to meet with Tim Herr.
Yeah, we had a really exciting interview with Tim Herr, who's based out of Atlanta, Georgia, a mutual friend of ours that we met through the Asian Real Estate Association of America.
Yeah, he talks to us about investing in the Atlanta metro market, kind of different price points and strategies that's working for them over there, his own journey through investing in real estate, and how to win with being nice.
Yeah, if you're interested in investing in other markets and learning about how to negotiate and win by being nice, this is the episode for you.
Check it out.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Realized Gains podcast. We're on episode 65. My name is Jordan Lee, and this is our co-host.
I'm your guest host today, Alex Fan.
And we are super excited to have Tim Herr on the show. Tim hails from the great state of...
Georgia. I just wanted to see if you guys knew.
The Peaches State.
Peaches, peanuts. Yeah, we'll take it all.
And Tim, do you want to give us your background, a little bit about where you come from, how you got to where you are today? We'd love to hear.
Sure. How long do we have?
We've got all day.
Hey guys, my name is Tim Herr. I hail from the great state of Georgia. I am based in Atlanta, Georgia as well. Been a broker for quite a long time. Been licensed for about 16.
Is that been your sole and only career? Or?
It has. We've all done side jobs. Obviously, as we kind of get your real estate business up in order. But yeah, I've done it all. My parents have had restaurants. I've had restaurants. I've had cell phone stores. We've been a family of entrepreneurs. So real estate has always just been, the bread and butter, and it's been able to kind of allow me to go and check out other stuff that I want to check out and fail miserably and then come crawling back to real estate. So seems like real estate has been my calling. So I've been sticking with it.
Being very modest about Tim. Okay, this is the Tim Herr, a realtor champion.
You might have seen some of his awards.
Okay? And not just when I say realtor champion, what does that mean? When you talk, live, breathe, be real estate, Tim Herr's the man.
Oh, thank you. And I wish that was the case.
Former, I'm representing
Yes.
ARIA. We're all involved with ARIA, the Asian Real Estate Association of America, and honored that Tim is one of our past presidents of our national organization and the first openly gay president too for our organization. So huge hats off for you, man, for leading the way for us all.
Absolutely. Yeah. The openly gay part, I'm sure we've had gay presidents.
No, there's other openly. I didn't know.
We just don't know. So we'll find out. That title may be taken away. We'll see.
So Atlanta, Georgia, when we, kind of the stereotype of Asian America is like the West Coast or New York, right? Talk to us about your family's story and getting to Atlanta, Georgia. I'd love to hear a little bit about that. And were you born there, or how did that happen?
It's like Portland, right? It's kind of, this is kind of the second tier cities, right? When we think of a lot of Asian Americans, we think of these gateway cities like Houston and LA and New York, like you said. I was born in Houston. My parents, so my parents, we joke, but I swear they were trying to make it to Atlantic City, and then they just kind of stuck with Atlanta. I'm pretty sure that was the case, but I'm glad they didn't move to Atlantic City. But Atlanta's great. So I moved here when I was 3, and then I just never ended up leaving. The cost of living is great. You can get all the food. We're a big food city. It's turning into a big food city. There's a lot of migration of a lot of people kind of moving into Georgia, Atlanta.
And your parents, you said they operated restaurants. Were they teriyaki restaurants, or what was the...
No. We've had country restaurants. We have had, we've had multiple cell phone stores. We've had clothing stores.
Just everything, huh?
Yeah, the American dream, right? That we have the opportunity to kind of venture off. We've had a lot of beauty supply stores. So yeah, my parents have dabbled in a lot of different businesses over the years. A lot of it related to real estate. So one of the reasons why I got my license is because they didn't want to pay commissions anymore, right? So every time they sold a business or they did acquire another property, they were just like, oh, if we're paying somebody, well, we might as well pay you, or maybe we can save on commissions. I think that's kind of the Asian mentality for a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
But
So you got
it's
into it
tough.
to help your parents with their transactions.
Yeah, they say we say that, but they've bought nothing from me, right? Right. So yes, while they've said that I had to go get my license, they've done zero transactions with me over the years. So at the end of the day,
Hopefully they hear
I
this
convince my
episode. Mom and
partners
Dad, it's
to.
not too late.
Right? Yeah, I'm just like, "Ah, you know what? It's fine. I see you're using a different agent. It's fine. I'm not gonna get upset and cry in the corner. You just owe me a commission at the end." So, it's one of those things where we all have our life story and we all have our journey on why we became real estate agents or became a realtor. But yeah, mine's and I started actually right before when the market failed back in 2009, right? 2008, 2009. So I got licensed before then, so I was able to kind of ride the wave, so to speak, right?
This was like right out of high school or
Right out of college.
right out of college.
So out of
Okay.
college. I was going to take a break, and my parents were like, go get your license. So I got my
Did you stay in
license. And
town for
then,
college or?
yeah, I stayed in Georgia too. I went to Georgia Tech, so didn't
Okay.
move too far. Again, cost of living. I got a scholarship. Grades, right? So there's Georgia college, there's scholarships in Georgia and stuff like that.
What did you study?
I was an industrial engineer. I
Oh, wow.
don't know anything about engineering.
Did you bring any of that, like the process of engineering into your real
Yeah,
estate process or
yeah,
totally not?
no, yeah, we say that, and well, maybe. So my major is industrial, so industrial engineering, so it's like a lot of optimization.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just like systems, like you go to a bank and you wait in line.
Hmm.
How many minutes before can you have? How many tellers do you need for computers for? How many clients before? How many tellers do you need before someone gets mad? What's the breaking point? Kind of speaking,
Right.
right? So kind of, I guess. Selling real estate is a little different than that. But and then during the downturn of the market, I actually ended up going to do the commercial. So I was doing residential. The market kind of tanked. I did a lot more commercial stuff, and then all the short sales and investments, and then that's kind of carried over to a brokerage, and then now we have a brokerage firm. So
So you started your
very
own
versatile.
brokerage how many years ago?
Right when I could. So in Georgia, you can make a brokerage firm in 3 years.
Oh,
After
okay.
a couple times, yeah. So I did it right after the 3 year mark.
So
It was just
you always had a plan for that, or you kind of knew that you wanted to do that, or?
no. It was because I did residential and commercial. So there was a
Mm.
lot of there's a lot of commercial firms and there's a lot of residential firms. This is pre like KW doing KW commercial or some of these other
Mhm.
firms. These divisions are commercial firms. So in order for me to kind of play in both fields a little bit, it was easier just kind of open my own firm. And then, we had one agent that kind of, I've known for a long time, kind of came over. And then two. So we're kind of more of a boutique. We're not that big, but about 18 agents, 19 agents on average. So nothing crazy, very manageable. And yeah, most of them they're all practitioners. So we have it's a little skewed on we're not the 80/20,
How much?
80%.
Yeah, how much admin do you have for
Yeah.
many agents?
So we have virtual assistant that kind of does a lot of the stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's nice. Virtual is just a lot easier. And then our offices are shared with we do have we're an attorney state, so we do have a closing attorney that,
Oh yeah, you guys are an attorney state. That's right.
yeah. So because of an attorney state, we have to close in front of an attorney. So we have 250 and 250B, one's an attorney's office on the one side, and then the real estate is on the other. So it actually works out very well. Let me check my video one sec.
Sure.
There you go.
That looks prettier.
There you go.
It
So
sounds
yeah, I
like
mean it's
brokerage is
we're a
point
boutique firm,
artist,
nothing
right?
crazy. A lot of investors, a lot of agents who kind of do their own thing. most of our agents are bilingual. It just kind of happened to be that way. Not everyone is, but it's kind of it works out nicely because we can all I am a competing broker, right? So that's kind of one of the other um, hard pills to swallow for a lot of new agents is that
You're
because
not
I
spoon feeding them. You're
yeah because I have to also produce and there's a lot of there's a lot of great firms in Atlanta and they don't have competing brokers.
Mhm.
Uh, but
You're like, I gotta keep the lights on, guys. I gotta
yeah,
keep selling homes.
someone's got to pay for the office, and I don't charge that much a fee. So if that's the case, it's such a competitive brokerage market here. So it's hard to kind of keep up unless you have the volume, right? You have these 300 mega teams, mega offices. So
Mm.
I mean,
Do you plan to keep growing the office in terms of agent count or what?
I mean, we signed on 4 new agents last week, so but it's a give and take. The more agents we have, we can only take on just a very few limited number of brand new agents because that takes a lot more training
Mm.
with trying to bring everyone up to speed. But a lot of existing agents, that those are a lot easier to kind of scout over. So we had 4 agents. They're experienced. It's just kind of more of kind of compliance and kind of learning our firm way versus kind of where they came from. So that's the kind of the main difference.
How many languages does your team represent?
So in our office, rather, because our team is just we speak. So in our office, we have Portuguese, Spanish, Mandarin, Canto a bit, and English and Korean.
Oh
So those are
wow.
the. So we do have all the major
And how
languages.
much like referral business do you get for by serving those unique communities, would you say, compared to like other boutique? Like how much is it coming from just like friends in the industry, would you say?
Yeah. It's a mix because a lot of our clients they may be Asian or they may not be Asian. So it's kind of more, I want to work with someone that looks like me or they
Hmm.
may have a similar cultural background.
Hmm.
Um, I don't speak Vietnamese, but we do have a very big Vietnamese team of agents in our office,
Hmm.
and a lot of them speak English, but it's kind of those that relationship building, right? And so that's kind of where we were able to kind of shine because we do have multiple languages. I got a call yesterday from a potential seller, and he's Russian, and he's like, "I know you don't speak Russian in your team, but do you have someone that speaks Mandarin?" My wife is Mandarin. She speaks Mandarin, so I was like, "Oh, great!" But you guys both speak English, so it's more the kind of that cultural,
Just that
yeah,
one step closer
right,
type
yeah,
situation.
yeah,
Interesting. It's we've been seeing looking at the demographic trends and the amount of Asians that are moving to the South, and it seems to be like increasing a lot over the last 5 years, decade. Help
yeah.
us understand, like for those of us that have been sitting on our West Coast bubble forever, like what is the like what's the attraction beyond? I mean, you mentioned house prices a couple of times. Are there like a lot of good jobs?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are you seeing down there? Yeah.
Yeah, we steal a lot from you guys. We have a lot of relocations from Portland, Seattle,
Mm,
LA, Santa Bay area, Atlanta, Georgia anyway. We have we have a pretty affordable cost of living. And we have the Atlanta airport, which you can go anywhere, right?
mm.
With 2 hours, 3 hours. You can hop on a plane and pretty much go anywhere.
Can you tell us what the median or average price is in your area for like a 3 bed, 2 bath home?
Yeah, so Atlanta prices depends on where you are in Atlanta. Atlanta is also 17 counties. It's a pretty big geographical area,
Yeah.
but on average, our MLS is kind of showing that our average price point, we're probably right around the 470s.
Mm,
It is, you can find something, in the threes. It's kind of, you have to be very aggressive and
mhm,
probably be flexible in the location and area. But our average price point is right around the 450 to 470 mark. And again, it goes up depending on where you want to be. If you want to be kind of with all the Asian Americans and kind of be near the H Marts and the Zion Marts and Great Walls, and so that's kind of be a little bit more expensive, just because there's definitely a lot of the Asian community kind of focus on the school systems.
mm,
And so, again, unfortunately, the better, the quote unquote, better ranking of the schools, you're going to have more population coming in, which is going to drive up the prices of the homes. Um, I live in the city of Atlanta. I live in metro, like the city limits. You don't really live in the city limits to go to send your kids to school, right? It's kind of the live work play kind of mentality, and within the city limits, it's much much more expensive.
Mm.
Uh, so
Can you touch on the average rents too for like a 2 bedroom?
Yeah, is that something like an investor from that's like, oh, I don't want to invest in California because, my cap's really low and my price to get in is like $800,000, but I'm thinking about maybe Atlanta, Georgia. What's the deal there? Are you able to cash flow or?
yeah, so it depends, right? So Atlanta was a great, I still think it's a great investment city. We just have to be flexible in the location, right?
Mhm.
Because again, your acquisition cost may be higher now, but the demand is still there. So if we're looking at let's take into account the last investment client that just purchased about a month and a half ago in
Mhm.
February. We closed in February, and they bought a townhouse,
Mhm.
369. HOA runs about roughly 120, 130 a month.
Okay.
And the rent we're on the market for 2,200. That's the average price point for so after HOA, a little over 2,000,
Yeah.
right? So it's not bad.
More or less
Uh,
break
you know,
even. Yeah.
yeah. And so we're telling everyone it's for about a $400,000 price point, you need to be netting about 20 anywhere from 22 to 25 to make the numbers work if
Mhm.
you're getting a loan. Otherwise, it may not work out. It just kind of again, it just kind of depends. A lot of these California, a lot of you West Coast people, you guys want like duplexes and triplexes and quadplexes. It's not a big thing here.
Is that not common? It's not in our
It's
in
not.
the Portland market. We don't have a
See,
big stock of
yeah.
multifamily either.
Okay. So yeah, so we have a lot of California people like, oh, I want to buy a duplex. And it is hedging your bets, right? Because you have dual income coming from both sides, a little less income coming in. But the density is not exactly the greatest word in Atlanta. They don't really like density, so we haven't built any since like the 90s, I want to say.
Oh, interesting.
So everything's gonna be a
Is
little
there any
older.
move to like change that like there has been here at least? I mean, we've been super interested
Yeah.
in upgrading our density, but I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we are, but everyone's built. That means you're building like these itty bitty tiny, townhouses that are
Mhm.
just kind of going up, right? They're going vertical. They're not going horizontal.
What do they call
Um,
them? Skinny homes?
there's
Yeah.
there was an article that was published a few months ago. City of Decatur was one of the most expensive cities you could be in terms of housing, residential housing, and they have allowed zoning to allow for duplexes and higher density. The ironic thing is, in order for you to build a duplex in city of Decatur, it's probably going to cost you like $1 million, right? So you're like, that's not really addressing the housing needs of
Is
the
that
city
due
of
to
Decatur because
like
it's going to
development
cost so much to
charges?
build.
Yeah. Why
Yeah,
does it cost that much to build a duplex? And
it's just city of Decatur. Like so, that city is just so unique because it has the best school systems. I mean, they
Mm.
literally will carve out a very weird, street just so that they can keep that city of Decatur limits. But again, it doesn't make sense as an investment purpose. Maybe to 30 years ago, if you bought it 30 years ago, it's great. It'll always be rented. But if that's the case, I just say, hey, look, let's look somewhere else. A lot of a lot of the West Coast clients, they're so used to a higher price point that we're like, hey, why don't you buy two instead of buying one, right? If
Mm.
a lot of our clients are like, oh, I can afford up to like 800, $900,000. And I'm like, well, problem is, if our average price point is 450, 470, then if you buy like an $800,000 property to invest, you're gonna have to find somebody that can take that kind of rent, right? And
The demand for rental might be a little bit
it's
smaller at
gonna be a
that
little
price point.
smaller.
Yeah.
So might as well buy two and kind of hedge your bets that way. And so it's a little, it's a little different communications that we have to kind of education a little bit.
Hmm.
But a lot of our clients, again, Georgia is also a very landlord friendly state. In theory, you can miss 1 month. You give them a notice to quit because they haven't paid after 3 days, and then you can go to dispossessory court the following month. So in theory, you can um, take them to court for evictions after a month.
After 1 month. Yeah.
And it's very quick. The whole process, again, in theory, should be they haven't paid, give them notice, you go to dispossessory court, the sheriffs will come out within a week. You have a week to answer, and then you get docketed pretty much the week after that. So it's done within a pretty much, about a month. The problem is evictions, but the dispossessory is quick.
Mm.
So we're very landlord friendly, and that's why you're seeing a lot of that investment migration down to Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee is really big right now. So we kind of have that little hotbed of investors kind of looking at that area. Alabama is turning into a pretty good investment market just because the price points are lower and the rents have kind of stabilized over there.
Right.
And so, but again, same thing with Atlanta. It's not bad, right? And I'll be honest, like Helen and I, we do have duplexes.
Mhm.
It was strange because all of our clients were buying, and we're like, why don't we buy some? Uh, uh, so we ended up buying a few, and it's you have two doors now, so management goes up a little bit, so there's a little bit more maintenance costs and stuff like that. So we've also learned by the fire, right? But it's great. I mean, it's not a bad thing, and a lot of these duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, once they're on the market, they do go pretty quickly.
Mm. Yeah, speaking of your investment portfolio, so yeah, when did you like get started in that? And you said your clients were doing that. Was that like the first motivation was when you saw your clients doing that successfully, or had you
Investments,
planned
I
on
think
it?
that's kind of the beauty of where we are, right? Where all of us stand is, we see it every day,
Mhm.
and we see our clients make money after they, purchase something and sell something. And I tend to be a long-term hold client, not so much a kind of the turn and burn.
Mhm.
This is I
You're
do.
not flipping houses right now.
We are, I am now,
Oh.
we're trying to, but I'd rather kind of focus a little bit on, making the mistakes with myself, me, myself, and myself, than kind of doing it. It is different, right? Flipping is very different. It's a different game. It is the numbers game, and it's very difficult sometimes because the construction costs and renovation costs are pretty high here sometimes, again, depending on who you hire. But my first foray really was my loan officer. My loan
Mm.
officer was like, "Hey, there's a lot of people buying in this one area. You should look into it too." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, why not?" Right? So usually a lot of the loan officers here, the bigger ones anyway, because they kind of see where a lot of people are buying, they're able to kind of say, "Hey, there's something going on in this part of town because all of a sudden everyone's kind of buying in this part of town. Let's what's going on? Can you find out?" Right? So then I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's an exit that's being opened up right on Interstate 85. It looks like everyone's trying to buy up in that neighborhood."
Mm.
So it's kind of one of those, it kind of turned into one, and then it was like, "Oh wow, the return is pretty good. All right, let's buy another one." And you kind of leverage, what you have, and then you buy another one, kind of leverage what
Mhm.
you have. And it's not for everyone, right? It is sometimes difficult. The lending process as a real estate agent is not exactly the easiest.
Oh,
Right.
so but you started out, your path was like the traditional put 20-25% down on an investment property, or how did
Yeah,
you
but yes. I don't think it was 25% in our market. I think it's closer to more 30, 35.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how it
Okay, so
started.
you put in a significant down payment on one, and then after
Yeah.
you saw it like grow and appreciate, you like did a cash out refinance type
Yeah.
situation, and then use that to
Yeah,
the
it's
next
more of
one.
a second one. Yeah, the cash out refis at the time, the rates just didn't make any sense, right? So
Okay.
it was more of pulling whatever equity I could
Mhm.
through a HELOC or second mortgage.
Oh, got a second mortgage.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
try to acquire the next one, or and honestly, it wasn't it. I tried to avoid that too because the numbers, everything could get all wonky, right? So I tried
I
to.
saw that when rates went up, and suddenly my HELOC payments went up a lot.
Doesn't make sense. So, now I'm just doing the straight, let's put down the 35%.
Mhm.
Again, I'm a numbers guy, so it has to make sense financially. I don't want to put in money, and you have to have a little bit of cushion, right? Especially
Mhm.
with these older townhouse, duplexes, there's something that's going to fail. So you have a little more reserve for these kind of properties. The other good thing about what's going on in Georgia is because of all the development that's been happening, you have to be first. So if you're on the door in the beginning, they'll set aside a certain number for investors, right?
Right.
So if you can get in the door when they immediately announce like a pre-sale list or VIP list and kind of get in there, Helen, my business partner, I know it says Helen on my name, but what we started doing is we started putting our names down for every single subdivision that we could. So every time we saw a brand new subdivision open, we would just put our names down. And, we would be able to, I'm sure we were able to find somebody to kind of fill that spot. So we would just flip our names out. If we could, if it was
Oh,
something that we were
interesting.
going to do. So, that's kind of how we kind of survived, the whole COVID market, when there was no inventory, is because we went around, putting our names down, like on every single subdivision,
Huh,
right?
that's
Like
kind of a
20
How much
names.
was a reservation?
Yeah, on the reservation. So they're like, hey, you're next. We're like, great. Can I swap out, we'll swap out our name, put someone else's name down. So we were able to kind of do that, which was nice for a lot of these builders that were.
And did you have to put down a reservation fee when you put your name down, or is it?
No,
It wasn't
these
until
are,
like you
yeah,
you hit on the list.
yeah, these are
Okay.
VIPs. And if now if we thought it was like a really hot neighborhood, like there were some that required some significant
Uh-huh.
down payments. So yes, but that would be we didn't mind doing that only if we had a buyer, right? So we're like, hey, it's gonna cost $10,000 for a lot reservation, and we don't mind doing it, but are you sure you're gonna buy it, right?
Hmm.
So it was kind of one of those situations, right?
Nice.
Yeah. So the investments, you just have to you just have to, when someone just sent me a list of about 30 properties right now. So what we do right now, we're just kind of going through and say, hey, this one, no, you won't recoup. This one takes more than 60 days to rent.
Hmm.
So we're kind of going down the list right now.
Yeah, what process do you have to help that? Because that's a lot of work. Going through and analyzing 30 properties for a client.
Luckily, a lot of them are under contract, so I can just be like, "Hey, it's under contract," so I kind of just knock it off the list. But I'm looking at this list right now. I'm literally looking at it right now, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, okay, let me
I
go
know.
let me go through and to kind of tell her, this doesn't work." She's from Virginia, and she's looking for an investment property too, right?
Mm.
So it seems like we get a lot more clients from higher cost cities,
Yeah.
and in their understanding of the process, right? So they're willing to kind of play it out, the investment game a little bit. The local market, local clients, investors, unless they bought it for their primary residence and then they're looking for their second home,
Hmm.
that's a lot of how the local kids are kind of growing their investment portfolio. It's not
Hmm.
that they're going out saying, "Hey, I want to go and buy 30, another second investment property." They're just kind of converting the first,
Converting their
yeah,
primary into a
pulling
rental,
equity out, and
putting
using that.
5% down or 10% down on a
Because it
new
doesn't make any
primary.
sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of people our age, I don't know how many people they'll have, again, average price point 400,000. That means you're gonna have to have like over $100,000 in investment and savings to
Hmm.
get an investment loan.
Yep.
Uh, a lot of, our generation doesn't have that. So they're leveraging where they live right now, waiting for the rental list, hitting that rental cap, making sure that they can get the rental permit, and then they're looking for something else.
I love that strategy that you mentioned about just putting your name down on a bunch of different subdivisions. I think that's like a super smart thing that I don't know if a lot of agents have thought about that. Curious.
Depends on the market.
Yeah,
Or,
I'm sure it
you
depends
know,
on the market, right?
Yeah, it
But I'm
depends on the market. Yeah,
curious.
some builders don't like that. They're just like, hey, aren't you an agent? I'm like, yeah, can we swap out the name? They're like, no. So there are builders that are okay with that, and there are a
Mhm.
lot of but I would say there's a lot of builders that are
But I'm
not.
sure you were able to sell all of them easily.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
curious. Oh, go ahead.
once you can prove that you can sell, right, then it's easier, right? So there was one builder, we ended up selling out like 9 or 10
Mhm.
of
Oh,
the
wow.
houses there, because once we got one, and they're like, oh, it was pretty easy, and they already have everyone lined up. They don't have to so it's just kind of the cookie cutter. They're like,
Yeah.
hey, do you have another one? Do you have another one? Did you get a
Right.
cancellation? We
Once you
can
have
find
a
your
track
buyer. So they didn't
record.
have to put it back on the market, right? So it was you building that repertoire with the builder is really nice. And so yes, it's dependent on the market, and I don't think it really works now. But during COVID, it was definitely very viable.
And I have one time I saw one of my buyers, they had one in a subdivision, and like by the time the subdivision was complete, it was like it was worth an extra $100,000.
Yeah,
Did you see that happening in your market as well too? Like
yeah.
I've heard of that
Um,
strategy of getting in, being like the first or second in the subdivision, and by the time it's complete, it's
it's a give and take. if the
Not
neighborhood is
always the
like,
There's
case, I
risk,
guess.
yeah.
yeah,
Depends on
if the neighborhood is huge, if the neighborhood is big enough, like 200 homes, you already know it's gonna take a long, it's gonna be quite a while before they can finish out. So that may work. So
Mhm.
it did work. A lot of these builders that started off at 450, 400, 450, by the time they're selling out at the neighborhood, it was like six. So it was great for a lot of these investors that didn't even have to live there or you didn't have to rent it out, right? They could just immediately flip it and still make quite a bit of money. It doesn't really work so much anymore. If anything, the builders are they're kind of keeping the prices pretty level, pretty steady. So it's not really that's yes, it worked again. That's kind of another COVID thing. I don't really know if
Mm.
it's really
Maybe
ever
that's
gone
not the regular
now.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if construction cost goes up, a lot of these builders, I'm sure it's the same for you. You guys over there, where they're building in clauses where they have an out, right? If something does go tremendously higher for cost wise, but most of the builders were honoring the prices, but
Mm.
there has been a few cases where they come back and said, we cannot honor this price. We have to increase the price. And that's the kind of the risk that you have to take sometimes.
So what has investing done for you, Tim? And what do you see yourself long term? Like, what's that portfolio look like to you?
Yeah, because I'm a hold guy. I don't do a lot of flips. And I'm venturing into flips now. It's a lot more time consuming than I thought. The vendors and kind of dealing with a lot of these contractors. And there's a lot of trust that you especially have to have with these people. Long term wise, it's kind of just to kind of keep going. A lot of people say they want to do one a year. Mine's more of a hey, look, if the numbers work out, it's great kind of deal.
Mm.
It'd be great if I could do one a year, but that's never happened. That's never been really the case, right? Sometimes it's been two in one year and just been a lull for three. It just depends because again, if the numbers don't work or if it's a great deal, then yeah, we'll jump on it. I I have started not to do it just by myself. I can hedge my bets if I have a partner.
Mm.
So again,
Less
like my
risk.
friend
Yep.
Helen. So we're like, hey, let's we found something. Even if both make less money, at least we're making money together, right? Instead of trying to go all in with one and kind of failing, or having that, or hedging we're trying to hedge the risk, right? And that's kind of how I've kind of um, looked at a lot of these investments now. Again, the price points are getting higher, which means I can't do it by myself, or I don't want to put all of my one reason, the resources into one property. And second mortgages, Jordan, I mean, these prices, these rates are not as advantageous right now.
Mhm.
Uh,
Money's not free anymore.
Money's not, it's never been free. It's just you're just charging a lot more
Before
for
it was
us to get.
basically the price of inflation. I mean, like
Yeah,
before you could get a loan for the price of inflation, more or less. So I mean, not
yeah.
it wasn't free, but it was,
It's your fault, right? I mean,
it's certainly my
yeah,
fault.
yeah. You guys are making all the money, and we're here.
Oh, we are.
Oh yeah, you guys are the loan officers are doing. You got
Uh,
refis. You guys are doing great. But it's a different. The process is the same. I think we all look at the same thing, um, but it's sometimes it's a little bit of a heartache.
You've mentioned Helen a few times. I know who Helen is, but for our
Yeah,
listeners who don't know who Helen is, tell us about her and her role in the company, but also as a partner, sounds like in your investments.
yeah. So Helen, she's one of our agents in our firm. She came over from a big brokerage, and uh, so she was doing more production. So she was doing more volume. I was doing more production. And when I was running for REA president, I was like, it's just like, hey, we both want vacations. We both need a break. How about we just kind of work together? And
Mm.
so a lot of our clients, we do all of our buyer consults, our seller consults together. That way, we can kind of work together on all of our deals. We have it's a very loose team because it's not really the Tim, her, or Helen team. It's kind of, hey, who's who, if it's kind of one of our leads, on the MLS, it's my name first, Helen second, or Helen first, in my website. So we kind of just support each other.
Mm,
Everyone has different ways of structuring a team. We felt that this is kind of the best way, be just so that you know, a lot of clients get confused sometimes with teams, right?
right.
So we just like, hey, you know what? You just have Tim and Helen. We're here. It doesn't really matter on the MLS what it looks like, but you will see. You'll see both of our names. But yeah, Helen is our basically our team lead. Again, we both are competing for business with our agents in our office, but we're able to actually delegate a lot of leads too, right? So because we have that team mentality, a lot of things that we can't do, open houses or showing, we have other agents in our office that are willing to do it. And so if you're a brand new agent, we do ask you to come underneath me and Helen's team,
Mm,
again, loose team, so we can kind of train you and kind of take care of you the whole process. And then the nice part about it is, the way we train our agents is that so that they are not branded with the Tim Hurd and Helen Wynn team. They're branded with their own name. And so it's an easy transition away from the team moniker and just kind of be in the same office. And they don't have to buy new signs. They don't have to buy new business cards. Like it's a very seamless transition.
mm.
And so they still stay with our firm. It's just that they don't have to be supervised by me and Helen per se. And we don't have to really kind of give the leads. They have their own book of business now. So it's an easy transition. It's kind of the way I look at it.
Nice.
Yeah, it all worked out.
And speaking of, we've talked a little bit about the Asian Real Estate Association. I know you're super involved in the National Association of Realtors as well. How much has like getting involved in organizations and participating in leadership, how much has that kind of impacted your business from a production side, but also just from like what's the word, like motivation, just feeling like good about going to work, I guess, type thing, like reinvigoration of excitement in your work.
Yeah, I think everyone's smiling because obviously the time commitment sometimes does get in the way of your clients. And at the end of the day, what I think ends up happening is everyone thinks that you're too busy, right? Clients look at your socials and they look at all your accolades, whatever it is, and they're like, "Oh, Tim's too busy for me. Let me find another agent," right? So it's not. So that's kind of a lot of our client mentality, but at the end of the day, the
Is it,
service is the
or is that
same.
in just in your own head? I feel like
No,
I
It's
want,
true.
we hear
It's
that a
true.
lot.
I don't
I'm
know.
not big time like
I
Tim
mean,
Hurd.
I feel
You know,
like you might hear that from one client a year and think that you hear it a lot, but you know what? Who I want to get my stuff done is I want someone that's busy to get my stuff done because people that are busy get things done, right?
And that's why we always do an introduction with Helen too, right? So we always say, hey, you have a backup, right? If you can't get a hold of me, you have someone that can do the, kind of get the contracts out, do the showing. So that's why we kind of work together very well. And that's why I know that you have a team as well. And it's just a lot easier that way sometimes. But the stuff that we do on a nonprofit basis from Maria, from NAR, really there is business that comes about. It just takes some time because if you are, like you just said, like if you are known as someone who's in Atlanta and you have a client that says, "Hey, I'm moving to Atlanta," you're gonna be like, "Hey, I have a friend. I have
Mhm.
someone that can take care of you," right? So it's that takes time to build that relationship, and that kind of thought process. An average person can name two real estate agents, and you're fighting for they can name seven. They're gonna call the first two, and they're gonna go with the first person that picks up the phone call, right? So if that's the case, you're trying to fight for that first and second position, of a client. Same thing as real estate agents, that's trying to refer. You have friends in every city. You're just kind of figuring out, hey, who is going to pick up the phone call first, right?
Mm.
And so you're fighting for that mind space. There are a lot of changes coming to our industry. There's always changes going to our industry. And it also helps to kind of be the first, kind of knowing what changes are going on.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's also very beneficial and kind of helpful. Um, and we get to share resources. Like I think, Alex, I called you a few times just for advice, right? And just be like, hey, what's going on? What's kind of going? What does your market look like? What do we need to do? What tech do you use? During COVID, I think that was one of the biggest blessings was I got to talk to a lot of our friends in ARIA that were very tech heavy,
Mm.
and they were like, hey, yeah, this is great. This is not, don't use this. This is so, we were able to kind of, there were other guinea pigs, right? Without me having to do it all over again. And what worked for y'all's market didn't work for mine, but at least we were able to kind of share, right? And we still use a lot of the technology stuff that our other friends have already tested it out, right? I think that's kind of the beauty of working with such a national organization is, again, you have the resources.
Yeah, you can see what's
Provides you.
working in other markets without having to beta test everything yourself.
Yeah, trust. Some of those technologies that people are, the real estate tech, there's always something out there and it's very expensive.
Yeah.
But someone testing it out first, it's always nice.
You mentioned a little bit about the climate changing. Obviously, there was a big NAR settlement and how being an organization kind of helps you hear about it and know about it before it comes out. How do you see that that's going to impact your market majorly? Did you guys already have buyers agents agreement type thing as regularly part of your practice? How are your feelings on that?
Yeah, what about in Oregon? Did you guys use buyer's agreements?
Yeah, many of us use
Yeah,
buyer agreements. It wasn't a common practice, and our state did.
Wasn't
It
required.
wasn't
Yeah.
required. Ahead of the settlement news, our state did pass legislation to begin requiring
that's
buyer
right.
agreements
Oh,
in
that's
December
right.
or January of this coming year. But since the settlement, it's the timeline's been escalated, obviously,
But our sister state, Washington,
has required it.
has required it, so they've been a little bit more in the
Yeah,
forefront of that.
Yeah. See,
And a
so,
lot of
so
us are licensed in both.
right?
yeah,
So a lot of the states that have that are used to buyers agreements or they've seen it anyway, there seems to be no change, right?
Mm.
Our job has not changed, right?
yeah.
It's our states that have never seen a buyer's agreement that are the ones kind of, they have a lot more questions. Yes, I am a realtor, so we use realtor forms. So it was always mandatory. Did we
Mm.
always use it? No, but it is something that we are probably starting last year. We've been requiring all of our buyers to use, and it's just best practices, right? And you have a lot of options on agents, and so this kind of secures our buyers to kind of work with us, right? A lot of education though. A lot of changes coming, especially in July. Um, but changes that really doesn't affect the buyers or their sellers per se. It kind of makes a little bit more work on us
Mm.
as agents, kind of figuring out, all right, what's my value add? You
Exactly.
can't
How
just
do you
slap a
define
picture on
your
the MLS.
value?
Yeah.
And I mean, I had this conversation again. I literally have it probably 3, 4 times a week now with clients.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
yesterday morning, a seller said, "Hey, I don't want to pay this buyer agent commission, right?" And I said, "Hey, that's fine. If you want to agree to that, that's fine. But let me ask you, what's going to happen when we have 3 offers and they all have buyer brokers, and none of them can afford to pay their buyer broker, and they're
Yeah.
going to concession from you? What are you going to do? Are you going to reject these 3 offers, or are you going to ask for more money to give them a concession? You're going to have to pay. You're going to at some point." And he agreed. He's like, "You're right. I'm open to it." So
Yeah, so yes, the news has taken this settlement into this weird, I don't have to pay commissions mentality, right? And you're right. These are tougher conversations with our sellers and buyers, to be honest. But we're pretty upfront with our buyers and saying, hey, if it is a lower compensation, we'll let you know. This is something that you'll have to decide on how to address. We are not in the business of selling houses for free. We have a value, and you're not going to be asking for discounts for other vendors. Well, you could, they might not give it to you. But I think, but yeah, one of our agents in our office it's going to be his first new listing, and he came over asking for help, and he's like, "Hey, the seller doesn't want to pay a buyer's commission, but he's going to pay him, no problem." And so there was a lot of education with our seller. She just agreed that in the event that the buyer has a buyer's brokerage agreement, essentially, and they have to pay, then she will pay a buyer's fee or the buyer's brokerage fee. So what it came down to it was I was like, basically, if we bring you a buyer, you're just not willing to pay the full, the total, quote unquote, the total commission if we ended up doing a dual agency or if the client was a customer. Is that essentially what you're thinking? She's like, yes, I just don't want to pay double and earn, double. Or the full commission. She's like, no, no, we're not doing antitrust and stuff like that. So, it's a lot of education. And I was like, okay, well then why are we doing this? Why don't we just do a stipulation saying that in the event that we bring a buyer, or if the buyer's a customer, or if there's a dual agency situation, we'll just, the total commission will be lower to a number that you'll be happy with. And she was like, no, the news says I could sell it for free. So it's still that education piece that we have to kind of do. And so, I just said, hey, look, average homes on the market in that area are selling in 5 days. Yours is going to take, as long as you're okay with it taking a lot longer, because we cannot, explicitly say that there would be a buyer conversation. And 91% of the homes in our market are sold with an agent. So if you're hoping for that 9%, it's going to take you a lot longer to sell you a house or sell that house. And she's like, okay. So what can we say, right?
Right.
I'm sure she'll say something different about a week, when there's been no showings. Because there
Just
has
so we're all clear for compliance, there are no set
there
commissions.
are, yes,
Everything's negotiable. We're just
everything's negotiable.
and each side has their value, right?
I mean, that's how it's
Absolutely.
always been. And there's just, I think, been a little
Yes.
bit of misunderstanding in how it's been presented. I mean, the first time I saw a buyer's agreement on for me was when I was making an offer on a property, and I had no idea that it was going to be in there, but I just saw it in the DocuSign. Like she didn't talk to me about it, and I was like, "Hey, what's this?" And I guess that was like part of the state. This was in South Dakota, and that was part of it. And so I think, yeah, having that conversation is like a good thing overall, because as a
Yeah.
consumer, you're kind of it's a little bit of a weird space, right? You don't fully understand if you're not in the business.
I
Right.
mean, my dad and I had a big discussion about this the other day. He calls me all the time. He's like, "Are you broke yet?" Uh,
Just like my dad.
yeah,
How are you
and
doing? Are you okay? How are
yeah,
sales?
he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Well, and so in his mind, by the way, he's like, I've always had to pay a buyer's agent," and I was like, no, I have sold him a house. So I was like, Dad, you've never paid me a commission. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, but he's like, no, no, there is a line item on my settlement statement that says that there is you got paid, there's a commission paid. And I was like, yeah, but not by you. You have never
It's
paid
on
my
the seller
fees.
side, yeah.
It was part of the listing. It was part of the MLS. And he's like, so he is still so in his mind, because he's had to pay for a certain price point, that was already built into, and that's why he's saying that he paid for my fees. Again, it's a very difficult conversation that, I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. Like, no, I'm glad, I'm sorry that you think of it that way, but that's not how it works. So, when I had explained it to my dad and someone who's been in the business for over 16 years, it is tough, right? Because even if your parents don't get it, unless you're in the industry, it's really there. That's why I think a lot of this misinformation is out there. It's tough.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's, again, creates more transparency in these tougher
Absolutely.
conversations, and there's more value that agents play. I had a different client, Alex. If it weren't for you, I never would have become a homeowner. You know,
Yeah, there you go.
it's
See?
about like who cheerleaded her on, gave her advice on investing and
Mhm.
starting on her own prep.
Right.
It's like, no, I never would have bought a home if you it wasn't because of you, So
Georgia's unique because we do not have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients.
Oh, interesting.
really, wow,
It's not
that's
written into
So,
your laws, yeah.
yeah, so because we don't have a fiduciary responsibility, our job is, we have to bring a lot more value add to our clients,
Hmm.
right? Because again, it's not about getting you the most amount of money or getting you finally the cheapest home, right? It's not it, right? So we have a different set of values that we have to provide to our sellers as well as to our buyers. And it's a different conversation. Again, that's why I think when we see a lot of investors coming into our market, we're like, hey, whoa, 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 like, what is it that you're really looking for, right? Are you just looking for an agent to kind of write the contracts? Because a lot of these clients have already done all their research, right? They're very, very knowledgeable. Or is it something you need to find something, right? Like, and can we help you with that, right? And there's going to be the whole gamut of clients that kind of knows it all. And there's the whole clients who are like, no, I need help from the very start, from all the way to the very end.
And let's say you're a client that's a first time investor or second time investor, doesn't know it all at all. Would they be able to just be like, "Hey, Tim, I have like 60 grand. Can you find me something? It's, and I need a property manager. I need this, that." Do you work with those kind of clients?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, usually if you buy one and you're making money, then you want to buy another one, right? That's the kind of the good thing. And a lot of these clients, they rely upon us to help them find the first one. But the second one, they're like, okay, you know what? I'm willing to take a little bit more risk. That's usually the question is, how much risk are you willing to take? You know, and so as the portfolio grows or as time grows, the risk appetite um, can grow. A lot of so it depends. Just because they know it all, or they may know it all, they may be venturing out into a different market or different area, or they have a different goal. There was quite a while when in LaGrange, where the Hyundai Kia, where the Kia factory is, a lot of clients were buying two houses. They were buying one for themselves, and they were buying one as their, as an investment property, so that they,
Oh.
in their mentality is, when my kid is 18, they need to go to college, someone else has paid the mortgage off, and I can sell this property and, have the college education. So a lot of that kind of, but it's different, right? Because this is in LaGrange. This is not in Metro Atlanta. This is about 2.5 hours away. And it's a very different type of mentality, but the prices were cheaper, right? So
Mm.
they, instead of buying a 300 or 350,000 house, they're able to buy like a $350,000 property, or 300, or something that's cheaper and still has nice rental, because again, there's always people, there's people who are, live in that part of town too. So again, it's that conversation piece, and Alex, we all do it, right? We're like, hey, what are you looking for next? Right? Do you want to go into a duplex? Do you want to do this? Do you want to flip? Do you want to put in a little bit more work? Or are you still looking for something that's very stable, steady, simple, easy, no frills? You're not going to get, crazy returns, but you're also not going to lose any money, right? So it's kind of your end goal, right? So that's a conversation that you have to have with every client. Um, it's part of our 40 question buyer questionnaire sheet.
What's
That
your end goal, Tim?
Yeah. Speaking of goals, what's your 5,
uh,
10 year plan?
oh
Because by
God,
that
no,
time, I'm guessing you're going to be retired.
Oh, I wish. I don't have that many properties. No. You mentioned all the service and stuff. I think a lot of us, we were able to kind of grow our businesses over the past couple of years, and I just want to kind of want to do that. I I I think we all have the same goal of exiting one day, but we're kind of all market experts in our field. Definitely mentoring a lot more, growing the team, trying to pass off some of the business off, right? It's
Be
hard.
more of a managing broker than a producing broker, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit, but you're at that. It's we have Atlanta's a very interesting market, so it's a little different. Kind of making money as a broker. Anybody who says you make money as a broker is lying. It's a very difficult
Hmm.
uh,
Interesting.
business to
Really?
run a brokerage.
Even if you own the space and have a decent
Yeah.
amount of agents, it's not that lucrative, huh?
Yeah, it's tough. Again, again, we have a lot of real estate agents in our market. We are a very big transactional firm market as
Mm.
well.
So
So
the
we
splits are a
actually,
lot more competitive than other markets, maybe.
yeah,
Caps are
right.
low.
And there's caps. So a lot of people are capping now. A lot of brokerage firms are capping. So
Mm.
you have to have the volume, right? And
Mhm.
again, unless you're really focused on headcount as a broker, when you have that churn and burn, um, and you just don't leave, unless something drastically happens to you, with the firm or the broker or kind of the brokerage firm itself. You're not going to leave. There's no point in leaving, right? Why would you want to rebrand yourself and kind of do all that kind of stuff all over again?
Mhm.
Um, so it's a tough sale as a broker sometimes. And most of the agents have come to me. It's more like, hey, we had a great transaction. I've never heard of your firm before. Wow, you made it really easy. Or we figured out how to solve the problem. Um, can I join, or can I inquire a little bit more about the firm, right? So it's kind of the more the natural, organic way,
Mm.
instead of us going after stuff. So uh, I don't know. That was quite, I'm avoiding the answer because I don't know, right? I can ask you guys the same thing. Like, what is our end goal, right? You can't sell one property, make, and retire.
Well, you could
But
sell a
if you
skyscraper and retire, maybe.
Yeah, it's tough. It's anybody real estate is a tough market regardless, and it is a full-time business that you have to be in, taking care
Mhm.
of your clients. And if you are an investor, it's not it's it's we say that it's like really hands off, but really in actuality, there is still a lot of
It
sweat,
can,
energy, tears.
well, it can be hands off, but it's really expensive when it's hands off. When you
Yeah, it can
are
be.
Mm,
relying on,
yeah.
say, your property manager,
Right.
your
Yeah.
Yep.
contractor, yeah, they're happy to do it. But man, when you get those bills and you're like, I'm negative cash flow here,
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
paying.
we talk about the negative cash flows and stuff, and it's like you have one client that doesn't pay, and it ruins, it ruins everything, right? Or you have a really, so we took over a property management. She had 7 doors, but her property manager wasn't collecting rent, and we were like, "What? What do you mean? What do you mean you don't have no accounting system?" She's like, "Oh yeah, like I just when I get the checks, I just put in Excel, and I don't know what my manager's doing." And you're like, "Oh, that's not great." So yeah, we took over, we took over that, and taking over that was a nightmare because again, we had no reconciliation. There's no books. We have no idea what they're even paying. Like there's no leases. Like we're just like,
Oh God.
where are the sign leases? Like there's leases that have to be signed. Like, what do you mean? Like, when did you agree to do this as a section, as housing vouchers? Like, no, they had no idea, right? So it's a lot of that kind of um, you have to find the right team to make sure that it is seamless and easy. And that's the hard part, right? You have a lot of options. You have a lot of options in the loan, getting a loan. You have a lot of options in using, an agent or management company. But kind of streamline that process is, I think, is very important.
Do agents in Georgia also are they leasing agents too? So can they earn income from leasing up properties, or are those separate commercial residential?
No, our licenses are the same. It's going to be a brokerage and broker question, right? A lot of brokers don't want you to mingle property management and the actual core
Say,
of buying or selling
sure.
because of liability purposes.
Right.
Yeah, insurance is a lot more expensive for property management, of course. And so again, we if you look at our management, we're not crazy big. Like we do it for ourselves and friends and family kind of situation. Nothing crazy, but that's kind of the best way.
Got it.
Um, yeah.
So if you had to give some advice to an agent, since you work with so many and you've been an agent for so long, whether it's like just one piece about, this is my special marketing thing that I do that's worked really well, or this is just my one mindset that I focus on, what would you say?
Be nice. That's all I'm gonna say. You know what? It's not even a mentality. It's
Hmm.
look, your job and my job is to get, our clients to the end of the table, right? And I have a list of agents that when I sigh and I'm like, this is not gonna be an easy transaction. And they're advocating and fighting for their client, and I get it,
Hmm.
but sometimes it's, just being, and I have to do that because that's the broker, right? I mean, like I have to jump in a lot, because I have agents that are trying to do the same thing. They're very, very passionate about
They want
protecting
that
their
win,
clients.
right?
But I just say, hey, look, it's be nice to your other agents because you just never know on the other side when you need to, you're going to be on the other side of the transaction. And it's inevitable. If you're going to be in the business, you're going to work with the other person eventually at one point or the other. So be nice. And so that's the one thing I can say is to all of our new agents, newer agents or agents that are coming back from COVID, for some odd reason, COVID has turned into I joke around with this, but I'm like, oh my God, COVID turned everyone into like these weird, you know, solo machines, and they're coming out and they're, they don't know how to act with other people. Like, be civil, be nice. It's not even civil, just be nice. Because the other side, you just never know. Because you're like, hey, is this property available? And they're just like, sometimes they're just really nasty about it. Like, who are you? What are you doing? Like, why do you want to look at my property? And, or, I get calls, hey, your lockbox doesn't work. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, did you type in, did you make an appointment? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, if you didn't make an appointment, that's probably why the lockbox doesn't work. And they're like, well, it's vacant. And I'm like, this happened a few minutes ago. That's fine. She's like, well, it's vacant, so I should be able to see the property. I was like, I'm not the one confirming the appointments, by the way. It's our seller. So the seller has, without that, the seller's probably watching you on the camera and they're not opening the door for you. Like, and so she's yelled at me. She's like, oh, then you guess you'll never sell your house. And I'm like, well, again, you can make a showing time. If you just make the request, it'll be confirmed, and then you can go see the property. Can you give us 30 minutes, right? So it's kind of that decor, just like decorum, um, with other agents, just being like, hey, you don't have to be a dick about it.
It has been lost to him, but it's also a certain, I feel like I feel it more, but this is just my personal opinion, okay? But like a certain generation, they come and the newer agents like, come on, dude, that's just, drop your aggro here and let's
Yeah, like
get there. Like, why are you so aggro?
yeah,
Let's
they
go.
were so mad at me. Why are you so mad? Like it's like we had a multiple bid situation, and we just went into contract, and some of these texts that you get from these agents are like, I can't believe you take my offer. I've been doing it. I got one yesterday. She was like, I've been doing this for 21 years, and da 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 da. I'm like, thank you. I've been doing it for 16. Unfortunately, your offer was one of the lowest. I was like, let me give you some guidance. Like, unfortunately, we took A's, kind of a little bit of how the offer and the backup offer looked like. And she just she's like, I don't know what's going on with our market. And these agents are just kind of ruining everything. And I don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, again, why are you yelling at me? And I'm just like, Helen's like, just ignore it. And I'm like, but she's yelling at me. Like I'm taking it very personally right now. Why are you yelling at me? You bring a better offer. But yeah, when you throw the age thing against me, I get really annoyed. I'm like, you being on, I did training, all across the country too. And I did training in, I'm not gonna tell you what state, but we're talking about like email addresses and this guy, you know, I told everyone bring their computers if you can. He brought his desktop, like he brought his monitor and his computer and his
Just a
keyboard,
LAN
and he's like,
party.
yeah, he's like looking for. He's like, where do I plug in my
Where's
LAN
my
cable? I'm like,
Ethernet cable?
oh my gosh, like I don't know where I am. I don't know how I can't. You just follow on the screen. I don't think I can train you on this is not going to work. Like I can't connect you. So it is, everyone has their own different way of doing business too, right? So you quickly learn that you're very humbled on how certain people will handle real estate and how they
Yeah,
deal
I
with it.
mean, it seems so basic, but like it's really important to be nice because, like you said, I mean, you never like there's times in during transaction that if one person's just nice about it, like you'll think about a new creative way to get something solved, like
Yeah.
you'll want to work to the finish if people are nice on both sides.
Well, it's being nice and not making assumptions too. And you get
Yeah,
those phone calls, and yeah, it's easy. You can just snap back at them. But by offering that sincerity, niceness, curiosity, asking questions, figuring them out, then you get to that place where you can work with them.
Yeah, you
Right?
just get talking about like, oh,
yeah.
maybe there's another solution. Or maybe we can do this. Oh, this inspection was horrible, blah, 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 blah. But like,
Yeah.
maybe we can do it,
Well, the problem is all of our names are very unique, right? So it's like we can't hide behind a John Smith, right? You're like, oh, it was a different John Smith. It was a different Tim Her. I don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, I can't hide behind that. So, it's different, right? I have an added complication of being as an independent, um, you know, you're part of KW, and there's a lot of bigger firms out there, so then they can use that, right? So they can say, "Hey, I'm part of the KW family, or I'm with this other, these bigger
Mhm.
firms." As an independent, I think I have to be even more. We have to do a little bit more, just so that we can win the bids, or we can do, or we're fair to all the agents, right? And especially in our market, we do have a lot of independents. We're not there's a lot of bigger brokerages too, but there's a lot of independents, and it's a fair shot. But you have to make sure that your reputation it's good. Otherwise, it's sometimes it can get a little complicated.
Totally.
Yeah,
And what about to like some sort of first time investor? If someone was like, hey, I really want to build an investment portfolio because long term, I feel like I need to supplement my retirement income.
yeah,
I don't know where to start. I'm having a lot of analysis paralysis, what would you recommend to somebody that was getting started in real estate investing?
Yeah, let's make it stupid, simple, easy, right? Like you know, you can definitely get, like you said, analysts. If you get, there's so many different ways of analyzing a property. You know, at the end of the day, it has to make sense for you.
Mhm.
And I always say, hey, look, the easiest way right now is let's look for something a little more stable. And then you can take on more risk as you get to know the market or as you get to know your clients, right? You have to know how long it's going to take to get a client, to get a tenant. Are they going to destroy the property? Are they going to stay there longer, right? You have to kind of go through the whole process first. So when these, it's usually our younger agents or younger clients are like, oh yeah, I'm going to make so much money, you know, buying, flipping, and then doing all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, have you looked at renovation processes, you know, costs these days, right? Have you looked at what, you know, after you add in your fees, you have to make some money, right? And I see these flippers or a lot of these out of state investors coming in and they're taking properties that will only give them about, you know, $5,000, $10,000 returns. And I'm scratching my head because I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like these numbers, why are you doing this for such
Mm.
little
Huge
gain?
risk, low reward. Yeah.
Yeah, but it works for them, right? It doesn't really work for my set of clients. So, you know, you find the agent or find the realtor that really can advocate and kind of help you. You know, Alex, I know this. You've had clients that you've worked with over a year, right? They just won't pull the trigger, right? We had the same thing. Like again, it has to make sense for the client, and we're not dropping you. We'll work together for, you know, however long it takes, but it may take a second for them to find and pull the trigger on that first property. Usually, the second one's a little easier, third one's a little easier because they trust you a little bit more. But it's that first initial jump that may take a second, and I think that's the hardest part with an
I think I
investor.
would compare it to like having your first, child, like
Yeah.
when you're really anxious, you're nervous, you want to make sure you're
Yeah.
doing everything right,
Yeah. Yeah.
Second kid comes along, you're like, yeah, it's fine. I'm used to it. I've been through the home buying process before. I get it. It's less scary. And so, yeah, you just got to start, just buy a
You just
property,
gotta start. You just
and,
gotta pull the trigger.
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
take
you may not
something
make
that,
a lot of you again, you may not make
Mhm.
a lot of money from it, but at least you pulled the trigger.
Mhm.
And you ask Jordan for the cash out refi and be like, hey,
Yeah. Over time, it's you're gonna build wealth.
yeah, that's
Just
the
don't
real
expect to
estate is
get rich
the
quick. Yeah.
yeah, you can't get rich quick, but real estate is the vessel that you can make long term and short term money. But you got to find the right trusted advisor in your market that's willing to take that risk with you. I want you to be able to call me and say, "Hey, sell my property," right? And so we can kind of buy the next one, right? So that's kind of the way that I know that Alex and all of us kind of work is saying, "Hey, we want to be in that circle when you do it again and again and again and again. But if you mess up that one time, you're not going to get that call back, right? So it's kind of you kind of have to. It's not. I like that example of the kid, but your kid, you can't. Your kid's not going to go away. Your clients, they can find somebody else. But yeah, I like that mentality. I like that. I like that analogy.
Yeah. And Tim, where can people find you if they're like, hey, I've been thinking about the Atlanta market for a while now. This guy seems like he'd be fun to work with. Where's the easiest way to find you? Is it on social media or?
Yeah, actually, you can go through Alex, and then Alex can connect us together. I'm sure
Perfect.
Alex would love to have the referral. It's just that's kind of the way that we work, right? And we all share
Hmm.
what we can. But if you do
Absolutely.
find me, it's really easy to find me. My name is Tim Her, not Helen on the bottom. Disregard that. Um,
Her,
it's
like HER?
yeah, HUR, like Ben
Oh.
Hur, Tim Her. But it's probably easiest to just go through Alex
Yeah.
or Steven, and they'll introduce us, and we can all figure it out together, and we can kind of go from there.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, that's hey, in real estate, we all make money together. We all share we wipe our tears together, and we lick our wins together. But at the end of the day, we all know how to have a good time.
That's right.
And see, and I'm pretty sure you're licensed in Georgia, so you can do all the loans too.
Oh, I should get a license in Georgia.
Should. Yeah, it should.
My
It's a big
manager about
market.
that.
You should any other clients that are looking in Georgia, you should also look in like just basically the southeast.
Yeah.
So we got
I have Florida, but
yeah, see? See, there's a lot of Floridians. Well, we have a lot of Floridians moving out. The insurance is so expensive right now.
Insurance is
A lot
rough,
of
right?
people
Yeah.
kind of jumping the border over to Georgia.
Mhm.
But Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and the Carolinas. Carolinas not so much. I haven't really seen a lot of our investors they're kind of pulling back. But
Mhm.
Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia, those three kind of the hotbeds right now for investments in the Southeast.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Thank you so
Tim,
much,
for your
Tim.
time
Absolutely.
today.
Yeah.
It was such an honor to spend with you and get to know you
Oh,
better.
hush.
And definitely we'll keep on pumping those referrals.
Yeah.
The honor was mine. Thanks for all the accolade and thanks for hyping me up. But yeah, no, we're all in the same field.
I mean it though. I really mean it. I mean, as a friend, really, of course, and just as a colleague, just you are very inspiring. You've set the bar very high for all of us, and and you're doing it the right way.
Yeah, we all do it the right way.